Did you know that nearly 70% of introverts struggle with burnout in corporate environments, while a significant portion faces anxiety when stepping into leadership roles or starting businesses? These challenges often stem from environments that prioritize extroverted traits like assertiveness and constant networking. For introverts, the thought of leaving the structure of corporate life to embark on an entrepreneurial journey can feel overwhelming. It's not just about leaving a paycheck or a desk. It's about navigating uncertainty, self-doubt, and a world that doesn't always cater to quieter personalities. I never thought I'd be one of those statistics. For years, I worked in a corporate office, following routines that made me feel safe but also drained me. Meetings were my worst nightmare. I would sit in a room full of colleagues, feeling the pressure to contribute while the extroverts effortlessly dominated the conversation. My ideas stayed locked inside my head because the fear of being judged paralyzed me. I hated team-building exercises, after-work networking events, and the constant push to speak up during every single performance review. The day I left my corporate job wasn't the bold, triumphant decision you'd expect. It was terrifying. My hands shook as I wrote my resignation email. I stared at the send button for what felt like an eternity. On the surface, I told myself I was leaving to follow my dreams. In reality, I felt like I was running away from an environment where I could no longer breathe. But entrepreneurship wasn't the escape I thought it would be. It was lonely. At least in corporate life, I had a structure. Now, I was the one responsible for everything: finding clients, pitching ideas, handling finances, and marketing myself. Marketing myself? That was a cruel joke. The idea of putting myself out there, asking for sales, or even just talking about my business felt like climbing a mountain in a storm. I remember my first networking event as an entrepreneur. I walked into the room, heart pounding, every instinct telling me to turn around and leave. Everyone seemed to have these confident elevator pitches ready. When someone asked what I did, I fumbled through an explanation, my voice barely above a whisper. I saw their polite smile fade into disinterest, and it crushed me. Working from home, which I thought would be a dream, started to feel like a trap. Days blurred together as I sat alone, trying to figure out how to grow my business. I avoided phone calls and dreaded Zoom meetings. My inner critic grew louder with every passing day, telling me I wasn't cut out for this. I was exhausted, but not in the way I had been in corporate life. This was a different kind of tired, the kind that comes from constant self-doubt and isolation. I'd lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd made a huge mistake. I missed the stability of a steady paycheck. I missed the illusion of security, even if it came with constant anxiety. I spent hours researching how to market your business as an introvert, overcoming fear of public speaking, and building confidence in entrepreneurship. My browser history was a graveyard of self-help searches. None of it seemed to stick because the advice always felt like it was written for someone else, someone louder, bolder, and braver than me. One of the hardest moments came when I almost gave up entirely. A potential client had expressed interest in my services, but when it came time to pitch, I froze. I stammered through the call, feeling like a fraud. When they declined my proposal, I broke down. I sat on my couch, tears streaming down my face, questioning everything. I had never felt so small, so incapable. What made it worse was that I couldn't explain this struggle to anyone. My friends didn't understand. They'd say things like, "But you're so smart. You'll figure it out." My family told me to go back to corporate life, that it was safer. But safe wasn't what I wanted. I wanted freedom, purpose, and the ability to create something meaningful. The turning point didn't come in one big, dramatic moment. It came slowly, through reflection and sheer determination to stop living in fear. I realized that being an introvert wasn't the problem. It was how I was trying to navigate a world designed for extroverts. Even as I started to see glimmers of progress, the journey remained uphill. The late nights, the moments of self-doubt, and the fear of rejection didn't disappear overnight. But I began to understand that the very traits that made corporate life difficult for me, my preference for deep, meaningful connections, my ability to listen and empathize, and my knack for thoughtful problem-solving, could actually be my strengths as an entrepreneur. Looking back, the struggle feels almost surreal. I know how isolating and overwhelming it can be to transition from corporate life to entrepreneurship as an introvert. I've been there. I've felt the weight of self-doubt and the fear of failure. That's why I want you to know that it is possible to overcome these challenges and thrive. After watching this video, you'll have the clarity, confidence, and tools to take control of your journey. Everything I've learned, the strategies that transformed my life, is waiting for you. You don't have to stay stuck in fear and uncertainty. There's a way forward, and it's more achievable than you think. The emotional scars from those initial struggles still linger, but they remind me of how far I've come. I remember staring at my bank account one day, the balance flashing at me like a cruel joke. My savings were dwindling, and I questioned if I had made the worst decision of my life. Fear crept in, whispering that I should call my old boss and beg for my corporate job back. But something inside me refused to give up. I had left for a reason, and even though I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, I knew I had to keep moving forward. I clung to that tiny spark of hope, no matter how dim it felt at times. The loneliness was suffocating. I would sit at my desk for hours, staring at my computer, paralyzed by indecision. Should I send that email? Should I try to cold call a prospect? What if I said the wrong thing and ruined my chances? I replayed scenarios over and over in my head, exhausting myself before I even took action. Social media became a double-edged sword. I would scroll through posts from other entrepreneurs who seemed to have it all figured out. They were landing clients, growing their businesses, and living the dream I desperately wanted. Every success story I saw felt like a dagger to my chest, a reminder of how far behind I was. The worst days were the ones when I felt like an outsider in my own journey. Introverts aren't celebrated in the entrepreneurial world. The loud, charismatic personalities seem to get all the attention, while people like me were left in the shadows. I tried to force myself into that mold, attending networking events and joining group discussions, but it only drained me further. There were nights when I cried myself to sleep, questioning why this had to be so hard. I thought about all the times I had let fear control me, all the missed opportunities because I couldn't find the courage to step up. It was a vicious cycle, fear leading to inaction leading to regret, and regret fueling even more fear. One memory stands out vividly. I had an opportunity to pitch my services to a group of potential clients. It was a golden chance, something that could have turned my business around. But the moment I stood in front of them, my mind went blank. My palms were sweaty, my voice wavered, and I could feel their eyes on me, waiting. I stumbled through the presentation, barely making it to the end. The rejection email I received later that week felt like a confirmation of every negative thought I'd ever had about myself. I started to withdraw, avoiding anything that required me to put myself out there. I convinced myself that I wasn't good enough, that maybe I wasn't cut out for entrepreneurship. My inner critic grew louder, reminding me of every failure, every moment of weakness. Yet, despite the darkness, there was a small part of me that refused to let go of my dream. I wanted freedom, not just from corporate life but from the limitations I had placed on myself. I wanted to prove to myself that I could do this, that I was capable of building something meaningful on my own terms. If you're watching this and you're struggling with the same fears and doubts, I want you to know that you're not alone. I know how it feels to question your worth, to wonder if you have what it takes to succeed. But I also know that there's a way forward. This journey isn't easy and it won't happen overnight, but the transformation is worth every tear, every sleepless night, and every moment of doubt. When you come out on the other side, you'll realize that the strength you've been searching for was within you all along. Stay with me because in the next section, we'll dive into the exact steps I took to overcome these struggles and reclaim my confidence. Together, we'll explore the strategies that helped me turn my weaknesses into strengths and find my place in the entrepreneurial world. You don't have to face this alone. Let's pick up where we left off. After hitting what felt like rock bottom, something inside me snapped. I realized that if I didn't take action, nothing in my life was going to change. The fear wasn't going to go away on its own, and the doubts wouldn't magically disappear. I needed to figure out how to step forward, even if it meant taking the smallest, most hesitant steps. I began by focusing on my mindset. I stopped trying to force myself into the extroverted entrepreneur mold that didn't fit me. Instead, I leaned into who I was. Being an introvert wasn't a flaw, even though it felt like one at the time. It was a strength and I had to learn how to use it. One of the first steps I took was creating structure in my days. I realized I couldn't wait for motivation to strike. I started waking up early and dedicating blocks of time to specific tasks. I broke things down into bite-sized goals that felt manageable. For example, instead of focusing on landing a big client, I focused on sending out one email. Instead of thinking about building a successful business, I focused on finishing a single project. I also learned how to protect my energy. As an introvert, constant social interaction left me drained. I stopped attending every networking event and instead began seeking out smaller, more meaningful connections. I joined a community of entrepreneurs who understood the struggles I was facing. It wasn't easy at first. I had to fight the urge to stay in my bubble, but those connections became a lifeline. One turning point came when I hired a coach who specialized in working with introverts transitioning to entrepreneurship. They helped me understand that my strengths, like my ability to listen, reflect, and think deeply, were exactly what made me valuable. I didn't need to be the loudest person in the room. I just needed to show up as myself. I began crafting a strategy that worked for me. I focused on creating content that allowed me to showcase my expertise without having to constantly sell myself in person. Blogging, email marketing, and even recording videos from the comfort of my home became powerful tools. This approach allowed me to connect with potential clients and customers in a way that felt authentic and sustainable. Another major step was embracing failure. I stopped seeing rejection as proof that I wasn't good enough and started viewing it as a learning opportunity. Every failed pitch, every ignored email, and every lost deal taught me something valuable. I learned how to improve my communication, refine my services, and understand what my audience truly needed. Investing in education was also crucial. I devoured resources that could help me navigate this new path. Books on mindset, courses on entrepreneurship, and podcasts that shared the stories of others who had succeeded against the odds gave me a sense of direction. Each piece of advice helped me build a toolkit for overcoming challenges and staying focused. One of the most important lessons I learned was the power of consistency. Success didn't come from one big win or a sudden stroke of luck. It came from showing up every single day, even when it felt hard. It came from building momentum through small actions that added up over time. Looking back now, the transformation feels nothing short of incredible. The fear and self-doubt that once paralyzed me no longer have the same hold. I've built a business that aligns with who I am, and I've created a life that feels fulfilling and true to my values. But I didn't do it alone. Along the way, I found guidance, support, and insights that shaped my journey. One resource in particular stands out as a game changer: the book titled Transitioning from Corporate Life to Entrepreneurship for Introverts. This isn't just any book. It's a comprehensive guide filled with expert advice and actionable steps tailored specifically for introverts like me. The strategies and insights in this book gave me the clarity and confidence I needed to overcome my struggles and thrive as an entrepreneur. If you're facing the challenges I described, this book can help you transform your life too. Don't wait any longer to take the first step towards your dream. You can grab a digital copy of Transitioning from Corporate Life to Entrepreneurship for Introverts at libraryffy.com. The link is in the description. Trust me, this book has the power to change everything for you. To truly understand the impact of transitioning from corporate life to entrepreneurship for introverts, you have to first grasp what makes it stand out. I didn't just read this book. I lived it. Every page seemed to speak directly to the challenges I faced, as though it was written specifically for me. It didn't just offer generic tips or broad strategies. Instead, it broke down the exact steps I needed to take to move forward with purpose and confidence. I remember opening the book for the first time with a mix of skepticism and hope. By that point, I had already consumed countless articles and advice columns that promised to help introverts succeed in the business world. Most of them left me feeling like I had to completely change who I was to make it work. But this book was different. From the very first chapter, it acknowledged the unique strengths that introverts bring to the table. It helped me see that I didn't have to compete with others by trying to outshout or outshine them. Instead, I could carve out my own lane. A lane where I could thrive by being myself. The book opened my eyes to the importance of aligning my business goals with my personal values. I had always felt torn between the pressure to succeed and the desire to stay true to who I was. But this book helped me bridge that gap. It showed me how to design a business model that fit my personality and lifestyle, rather than trying to fit myself into someone else's mold. One of the most powerful lessons I learned from the book was how to silence my inner critic. Before reading it, I constantly second-guessed myself. Every decision felt like a potential disaster waiting to happen. But the book taught me how to recognize those limiting beliefs and replace them with empowering thoughts. It didn't happen overnight, but the exercises and tools in the book gave me a roadmap for building my confidence from the inside out. Another key takeaway was learning how to set boundaries. As someone who struggled with people-pleasing tendencies, I often found myself saying yes to everything even when it drained me. This book helped me understand the value of protecting my energy and prioritizing my own needs. It gave me permission to say no without guilt and taught me how to communicate my boundaries in a way that felt respectful and firm. What really set this book apart was how actionable it was. It didn't just inspire me, it gave me a clear plan to follow. I learned how to identify my target audience, build meaningful relationships, and create a brand that felt authentic to me. The step-by-step approach made it easy to implement the advice, and before long, I started seeing real results. My business began to grow, not because I was doing things the traditional way, but because I was doing them in a way that worked for me. The book also emphasized the importance of community. It showed me how to find and connect with like-minded individuals who understood the unique challenges of transitioning from corporate life to entrepreneurship. Those connections became a source of encouragement and support that carried me through the tough times. Even now, I revisit the book whenever I feel stuck or overwhelmed. It's become a constant source of guidance and reassurance, reminding me that I have what it takes to succeed. And the best part? The advice in the book isn't just theoretical. It's practical, proven, and rooted in real-world experience. If you're an introvert struggling to navigate the leap from corporate life to entrepreneurship, this book is your answer. It's more than just a resource, it's a lifeline. It will empower you to embrace your strengths, overcome your fears, and build a business that feels true to who you are. So don't hesitate. Head to LibriFFY.com and grab your digital copy of Transitioning from Corporate Life to Entrepreneurship for Introverts. The link is in the description. This book has the power to transform your life in ways you can't even imagine. It did for me, and it can for you too. Your journey starts now.
Whispers of